It's Monday, April 13th. In the headlines, Healthy Society Coalition opposes changes to laws on sexual relations between minors. In business news, Jamaica expands BPO operations. Regionally, Guyana's President Dr. Mohamed Ifran Ali urges action to deepen energy collaboration with Trinidad and Tobago. And in sports, Reggae Girls captain Khadija Shaw's hat-trick powers the Reggae Girls to a 4-0 win in World Cup qualifiers. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society is pushing back against calls for changes to legislation that addresses sexual relations between minors. The group made its position clear during deliberations of Parliament's Joint Select Committee reviewing the Child Diversion Act, where stakeholders are examining ways to reduce the number of children entering the justice system.
Advocacy Officer Philippa Davis argued that while legislative reform is often prioritized, the deeper issue lies in understanding why young people engage in risky behavior.
We also disagree with the suggestion that adolescent sex is to be deemed as normal, mere exploration, and unharmful. This is so far from the truth. Sex is more than a physical act. It carries long-term psychological consequences.
Davies warned that early sexual activity can have serious emotional and neurological effects, pointing to research on adolescent brain development. The group also challenged the view that teenage sexual relationships are harmless, citing data suggesting that many first sexual experiences among young people are not fully consensual.
But now we're not saying that the immature development of the prefrontal cortex means that children are stupid. No, they can be quite bright, doing well in school, but the reality is that structurally, their brains are not yet fully prepared to handle the complexity of some very adult circumstances and decision-making. So with an immature prefrontal cortex, even if adolescents understand that something is dangerous, they may still engage in risky behavior.
The submission comes amid growing calls from some groups for so-called close-in-age exemptions to be introduced into law, measures that would prevent peers of similar ages from being criminalized. But President of the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society, Wayne West, says while children should not be unnecessarily criminalized, the law must still act as a guide.
So we are not saying that if persons are caught in sexual activity and they are near age, that they should be criminalized. We say we keep the law as is, because the law is a teacher. And we don't want the law to be used to teach something else. But at the moment, we are able, even though the law is the way it is, to divert to, away from the court and to not have the person plead guilty. What we are adding, we're not denying that things do happen. But what we are saying is that the law is a teacher and there is a consequence to activity.
The committee is expected to continue its review of the Child Diversion Act.
Homeowners in St. Catherine are being given more time to bring unauthorized buildings into compliance. Spanish Town Mayor Norman Scott has announced a 2-month extension on the building permit amnesty program. The St. Catherine Municipal Corporation has extended its building permit amnesty program to May 31, 2026. Mr. Scott says the move comes amid encouraging a response from householders seeking to comply with the law. He says the extension was necessary, noting that the building approval process can be lengthy and additional time will help more homeowners complete the required steps. The crackdown follows a fire in St. John's Garden in Spanish Town that claimed the life of 14-year-old Gabriella Wright and left her brother critically ill. Reports indicate that the 5-bedroom house destroyed by the blaze had only one entrance, raising concerns about emergency escape routes. Bullying isn't just something that happens in high school or online. Experts say it can begin as early as preschool. In part 1 of this JIS interview, we look at the warning signs and how parents and educators can stop the behavior before it takes root.
Bullying isn't just something that happens in high school or online. It can start as early as preschool. What are the early signs? And more importantly, how do we stop it before it takes root? Today we're sitting down with early childhood development psychologist at the Early Childhood Commission, Chevelle Campbell, to learn how we can create safe and supportive spaces for our young children. Welcome to Get the Facts, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you for having me.
Let's jump into getting some facts.
Go ahead.
Love to start with a definition. Bullying, what is it?
So bullying is repetitive, aggressive actions that is usually intended to hurt somebody. So the key words, repetitive, the aggression, and the aggression can be overt aggression or passive aggression. And then there's the intent to hurt somebody, usually who is in a position to or to not defend themselves as well. So there is usually somebody with the intent. They pick out a target because this target usually cannot fight back or defend themselves well.
Would I be right in putting in this phrase power imbalance in the
Definitely.
Right, okay. All right, so we're talking Early Childhood Commission and
Yes.
young children.
Young children.
And somebody might be watching and be like, huh? Bullying?
Yes.
Children?
Yes.
Nay, babies. Is this really a thing that happens with such young children?
It is a thing. So we see a lot of instances where we have children, bullying to the point where sometimes parents feel like they have to relocate the children. And it really comes up in different forms. So you'll see the physical bullying where they'll hit and slap and spit on other children. You'll see the other type of bullying, which we see a lot, which is what I call relational bullying. Okay. Sometimes people refer to that also as social bullying. So that includes little children that are like, don't play with Theodore. Right. And they go around and they, form their little...
And leave you out.
And they leave you out.
Oh,
So,
no.
Theodore comes to school every day and he feels isolated.
Right.
So then there, as mentioned, physical, and then there's the verbal, where they just say mean things with the intention to hurt
Nobody
other
loves
children.
you or
Yes, and they're
heard
like,
that one.
you're ugly, and that's a big one. You're ugly. They tell you that your shoes ugly, your shoes begging bread. Yeah, and they'll say other things like they look in your lunch pan and you don't have as many snacks, and them say your mother don't love you. And then if that child has some idea that maybe they are not loved as well as they should, then that it spirals into other issues.
Tell me something. Children they're children. They're rambunctious, they're vivacious, they perhaps don't have all of their social faculties well formed yet. It's not just children being children.
Not just children being children, because as we have a definition, and if we're not able to identify it, then we don't know how to deal with it. So while they're children being children and they're still learning, there are some behaviors like bullying which are just unacceptable. So we understand that at this age they're trying to be autonomous. They want to be, I'm a big girl, I'm a big boy, I can do this,
Right.
I can do this by myself. They're also learning how to navigate conflict. And yes, we have to teach them. So if we're seeing them doing things that look like bullying, then we have to try and curb that behavior and provide the positive solutions or other alternatives to deal with these challenges that we're seeing positively.
Backyard gardening provides access to fresh organic produce, improved mental health through stress reduction, and physical exercise. It promotes food security, saves money on groceries, and fosters environmental sustainability by supporting local ecosystems. Shanta Lindsay shares some tips.
Shanta grew up in a home where planting food was simply part of everyday life. Watching her parents sow and reap from their backyard quietly rooted in her a lasting impression.
The very first thing I planted was tomatoes. I got seeds, and that's just it. I didn't plan for it specifically to start at that time, but my mommy gave me some seeds, and I just planted them, and they came up because I didn't expect them to grow. And when they started growing, then I was like, okay, this is it. When I started, I did have a pot that I started in, but I later started using like buckets. I even have a chiffon container that I had butter dishes that I used to start seeds. So it's pretty much whatever you have available that works. So buckets, I got a planter box made, and that was just with scrap wood. So I not spend a lot of money to get it started.
As her garden expanded, she faced a common challenge.
I didn't have a lot of soil. So I started looking at things that would grow in shallow soil. So that's when I kind of branched out. So information is kind of just out there for everybody. So I just went online and looked up what could grow in certain soils based on what I have already and how much light and everything that I had, and I just worked with that.
Today, her space boasts several crops.
I recently planted about 7 varieties of peppers that are coming up now. So there's also scotch included in that. I have some lettuce seedlings coming up, both lettuce plants, pak choy, more tomatoes that are not doing very well, but I have more seedlings coming up so I can always start again. I have cabbage, cucumbers, I have a pumpkin that's not doing too well, but that's fine. I have cantaloupe that's coming up as well, and basil, and I'm forgetting the rest, but it's quite a few.
Once she understood how sunlight affects her plants, it made a world of difference.
Some plants kind of require more than others. Like for lettuce, it does need maybe like 6 hours, but if it's less, you can put it in a more shaded area, because you can start that, I think, pretty much anywhere. But I just kind of watched the spot that I wanted to plant in and saw how the sun moved throughout the day, and then decided if I could use something that needed heavy, like a lot of sun in that area, like corn and those things we grow in buckets, it needs a lot of sun. So I just picked the area with the most sun and put what's needed there, and everything else that's more shaded, I'll plant them there. So you can use the space as much as possible.
In the business report, Jamaica has opened another business process outsourcing incubator. The new facility, called the Informatics Park Incubator, seeks to attract foreign BPOs moving in, connecting to ready-made infrastructure, and starting to work almost immediately without spending months on setup. Located in Portmore, St. Catherine, the incubator setup is straightforward. Once a company completes registration at the Companies Office of Jamaica, it can move into the incubator to set up operations. During this interim process, the Port Authority of Jamaica, which owns the facility, will help interested companies obtain a special economic zone license and find permanent office space. Jamaica has been ranked 13th out of 19 countries in the latest Latin American Artificial Intelligence Index, highlighting ongoing weaknesses in the country's AI readiness and digital development. The report, published by the UN Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, shows that Jamaica's position reflects limited engineering and technical talent depth, moderate digital infrastructure, weak investment in AI and digital transformation. Jamaica ranked above Cuba, but below the Dominican Republic, placing it in the lower tier of regional performance. The region accounts for 6.6% of global GDP and 8.8% of the world's population, but receives only 1.12% of global AI investment. Talent gaps are widening, with the report cautioning that, quote, the gap in relative AI talent compared to the global average has widened since 2022, accelerating talent loss, end quote. Denise Williams has the financial market snapshot and information on the Forex market.
For the trading period of April 10, 2026, the most actively traded securities were Lasco Manufacturing Limited with 8,188,810 units, representing 37.53% of market sales activities. Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with 7,955,209 units, representing 36.46% of market sales activities. And Wigton Energy Limited with 3,211,340 units, representing 14.72% of market sales activities. Turning to the foreign exchange market based on Bank of Jamaica data for April 10, 2026, foreign exchange traders recorded significant activity with strong demand across major currencies. For the US dollar, trading margins reflected steady liquidity, with the US selling at 156.98 and buying at 159.18. The Canadian dollar had moderate gains supported by $6.42 transaction spreads. The Canadian dollar sold for $109.89 and was bought for $116.31. Continued volatility offered short-term trading opportunities for the British pound, with $1.46 profits for the banks. The British pound sold for $212.41 and was bought for $213.87. These movements underscore the importance of cash flow timing and currency awareness for businesses managing import costs, debt servicing, or overseas exposure. For our credit report tip of the day, consistent investing creates access to capital over time. By building a portfolio through disciplined monthly contributions, you gradually create access to a pool of capital you can tap into when needed. You don't even need your credit report. For example, a well-built portfolio can provide borrowing power for opportunities like business investments or short-term financial needs. This access is earned through consistency, not applications using your credit report. And that's today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing clarity to capital markets and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep building forward. See you soon.
Thanks, Denise. In regional news, President of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Ifran Ali, says the partnership between his country and Trinidad and Tobago must be mutually beneficial to maintain success. President Ali was speaking at the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce's annual meeting and outlook for 2026-2027 event in Port of Spain on Friday.
Speaking on the theme Strengthening Trinidad and Tobago-Guyana Energy Collaboration in a New Regional Energy Era, keynote speaker, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, outlined an extensive plan designed to bolster Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana's working relationship on both the governmental and private sector levels. He stressed that for the partnership to be successful, there must be active cooperation by all stakeholders.
We can't come and say We want to manage the gas plant, which is an opportunity you will hear about soon. But then you can't bring 2 containers of lime into Trinidad and Tobago. It doesn't work. Let us be honest. It cannot work, and we must end this nonsense now. It is complete nonsense. It is mind-blowing that we can sit in a room together as government and private sector and fix these problems.
President Ali was adamant that there will be no meaningful cooperation unless the issues that currently exist are addressed.
So let's not talk about partnership and talk about coming together if we can't fix these problems. If we care about partnership, we care about building consortiums, we care about building a joint, and I can tell you that is the best way forward, a joint economic front between Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, then we must care about fixing the problem, and let's get in that room, lock ourselves up for 72 hours, and fix the darn problem and come out the room.
Speaking to the media following the event, President Ali was asked if he was optimistic that the regional bloc will achieve its goals of full integration.
We have to. There's not a choice. We have to make CARICOM stronger, we have to make CARICOM work, and we have to make CARICOM results-oriented, and we have to achieve results. We don't have an option. Thank you.
President Ali indicated that a meeting with Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar and other members of cabinet was planned for after the chamber event. Terry Ann Brown-Campbell, TTT News.
Caribbean nations, including Grenada, could soon receive major financial support to cushion the impact of rising global instability. The African Export-Import Bank has approved a $10 billion Gulf Crisis Response Program aimed at helping small, import-dependent economies manage soaring fuel and food costs linked to the ongoing Middle East conflict.
Grenada and other Caribbean Community CARICOM nations could benefit from a new U.S. $10 billion support program announced by the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, aimed at cushioning economies from the ripple effects of the ongoing Middle East conflict. The initiative, known as the Gulf Crisis Response Program, GCRP, was approved by the bank's board of directors as global economic shocks continue to impact small, import-dependent nations like Grenada. The conflict, which escalated in late February, has disrupted key global supply chains, particularly for fuel, fertilizers and food, placing added pressure on Caribbean economies already vulnerable to external shocks. For Grenada, the implications can be significant. As a country heavily reliant on imported fuel and goods, rising costs and supply disruptions could affect everything from electricity generation to agriculture and food security. Only a week ago, the Grenada Electricity Services Limited (GRENLEC) advised customers that rising global fuel prices are expected to further affect the cost of electricity in the coming months. GRENLEC attributed the impending rise in costs to recent volatility in world energy markets driven by ongoing global conflicts and supply disruptions. At the pumps, in March, gasoline increased from $13.93 to $15.18 per gallon, diesel from $14.35 to $16.11, and kerosene from $10.45 to $13.10, marking notable jumps across all categories. Cooking gas prices also climbed significantly, with the 100-pound cylinder in Grenada moving from $230.20 to $296.60, and bulk gas from $2.40 to $3.05 per pound. While Carriacou and PT Martinique recorded similar increases, including a rise from $253.20 to $319.60 for a 100-pound cylinder. With the next fuel price adjustment due on April 18th, ongoing uncertainty tied to global tensions leaves little indication that consumers will see any meaningful relief. Under the Gulf Crisis Response Program, Afreximbank will provide short-term foreign exchange and liquidity support to help countries maintain access to essential imports, including fuel, pharmaceuticals, and food supplies. The facility is also expected to offer relief to sectors such as tourism and aviation, which may face reduced activity due to global instability. Beyond immediate support, the GCRP is designed to strengthen long-term resilience in Caribbean economies. This includes financing for infrastructure development in energy, ports, and logistics, as well as support for expanding productive capacity in key sectors. President and Chairman of Afreximbank, Dr. George Elombi, said the program reflects the institution's commitment to helping member states navigate global crises while building stronger, more self-sufficient economies. Regionally, Afreximbank is expected to collaborate with organizations such as CARICOM to coordinate responses around energy security, trade resilience, and supply chain diversification, areas that are increasingly critical for Grenada and its CARICOM neighbors.
We headline our sportscast with some football updates. Captain Khadija Shaw delivered a standout performance to lead Jamaica's Reggae Girls to a dominant win in their latest World Cup qualifying campaign. They cruised to a 4-0 victory over Antigua and Barbuda women's national football team in the CONCACAF women's qualifiers on Friday. The Manchester City strikers' hat-trick in the 45th minute, 49th minute, and a header in the 55th minute cemented her reputation as one of the most feared and respected players in the region. The emphatic victory keeps the Reggae Girls firmly on track in their qualifying campaign as they aim to strengthen their presence on the international stage. And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for making it the People's Station.